Joseph Ritson was an English antiquary. Early life. He was born in Stockton-on-Tees, County Durham, of a Westmoreland yeoman family. He was educated for the law, mainly by Ralph Bradley, the leading conveyancer. He then settled in London as a conveyancer at 22. Author. He devoted his spare time to literature, and in 1782 he published an attack on Thomas Warton's History of English Poetry. The tone of his observations, in which Warton was treated as a pretender, charged with cheating and lying to cover his ignorance, caused a sensation in literary circles. In nearly all the small points with which he dealt, Ritson was in the right, and his corrections have since been adopted, but the unjustly bitter language of his criticisms roused great anger at the time, much, it would appear, to Ritson's delight. In 1783 Samuel Johnson and George Steevens were attacked in the same bitter fashion as Warton for the text of Shakespeare. Bishop Percy was next subjected to a furious onslaught in the preface to a collection of ancient songs. In a letter to Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Robert Southey read that Ritson is the oddest, but most honest of all our antiquarians, and he abuses Percy and Pinkerton with less mercy than justice. Ritson spared no pains himself to ensure accuracy in the texts of old songs, ballads and metrical romances which he edited. His collection of the Robin Hood ballads is perhaps his greatest single achievement. However, he gave in to his own political prejudices as a Jacobin when he included the idea, uncommon until then, that Robin Hood robbed the rich and gave to the poor, rather than simply robbing the bishops and the sheriff of Nottingham. Sir Walter Scott, who admired his industry and accuracy in spite of his temper, was almost the only man who could get on with him. According to Scott, Ritson was a man of acute observation, profound research, and great labour. On one occasion, when he called in Scott's absence, he spoke so rudely to his wife that he was threatened with being thrown out of the window. Spelling became one of his eccentricities. In his later books, he increasingly adopted a reformed spelling of his own devising. As early as 1796, Ritson showed signs of mental collapse, and on the 10th of September 1803, he became completely insane, barricaded himself in his chambers at Gray's Inn, made a bonfire of manuscripts, and was finally forcibly removed to Hoxton, where he died. Bibliography. The verses addressed to the ladies of Stockton. First printed in the Newcastle Miscellany, MDCCLXXII, 1780. Observations on the 3 first volumes of the History of English Poetry by T.W. in a letter to the author, by Thomas Warton and Joseph Ritson, 1782. A Select Collection of English Songs, 1783. The Spartan Manual, or Tablet of Morality, being a genuine collection of the apothegms, maxims and precepts of the philosophers, and other celebrated characters of antiquity, etc., 1785. A digest of the proceedings of the Courtleet of the Manor and Liberty of the Savoy, 1789. Pieces of ancient popular poetry, from authentic manuscripts and old printed copies, 1791. ISBN 0-548-60052-X. The Office of Constable, being an entirely new compendium of the law concerning that ancient minister for the conservation of the peace, etc., 1791. Cursory criticisms on the edition of Shakespeare published by Edmund Malone, 1792. The Northumberland Garland, or Newcastle Nightingale, a matchless collection of famous songs. Edited by Joseph Ritson, 1793. Law Tracts, L.P. 1794. Poems on interesting events in the reign of Edward III, written in the year MCCCLII. with a preface, dissertations, notes, and a glossary by J. Ritson, by Lawrence Minot and Joseph Ritson, 1795. Ancient Songs and Ballads from the Reign of King Henry II to the Revolution in 2 volumes. ISBN 1-10318694-9. Bibliographia Poetica, a catalogue of English sick poets, of the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries, with a short account of the works, by Joseph Ritson, Philip Bliss, James Boswell, and John Payne Collier, 1802. Ancient English Metrical Romances, 1802, ISBN 1-10402459-4, An Essay on Abstinence from Animal Food, as a Moral Duty, edited by Sir Richard Phillips, London, 1802, ISBN 1-4367-71080, a catalogue of the entire and curious library and manuscripts of the late Joseph Ritson, 1803. The jurisdiction of the court leet, exemplified in the articles which the jury or inquest for the king, in that court, is charged and sworn, and by law enjoined, to inquire of and present. W. Clark and Sons, 2d ed., with great additions, edition 1809. North and Garland's, R. Triphook, 1810. The Office of Bailiff of a Liberty, 1811. A select collection of English songs, with their original airs, and a historical essay on the origin and progress of national song, London, 1813, ISBN 1-4212-6009-3. The Caledonian Muse, a chronological selection of Scottish poetry from the earliest times, 1821, ISBN 0-548-73946-3. Some account of the life and publications of the late Joseph Ritson, Esq., by Joseph Hazelwood, 1824. Life of King Arthur from Ancient Historians and Authentic Documents, London, 1825, ISBN 0-7661-81006. Annals of the Caledonians, Picts, and Scots and of Strathclyde, Cumberland, Galloway and Murray, London, 1828, ISBN 0-554-48196-0. Memoirs of the Celtsy Gauls, Joseph Ritson and Joseph Frank, 1829, ISBN 1-103-37230-0. Letters from Joseph Ritson to George Patton, 1829, ISBN 1-4370-25919-9. Fairy tales, now first collected, to which are prefixed 2 dissertations. 1. On Pygmies. 2. On Fairies, London, 1831, ISBN 1-4021-47538-8. Robin Hood, a collection of all the ancient poems, songs, and ballads, now extant relative to that celebrated English outlaw, to which are prefixed historical anecdotes of his life. London, 1832, ISBN 1-4212-62096. The letters of Joseph Ritson, edited chiefly from originals in the possession of his nephew J. Frank, to which is prefixed a memoir of the author, by Joseph Ritson, Joseph Frank, and Nicholas Harris. Nicholas, 1833, ISBN 0-548-72425-3. Gamma Gurton's Garland of the Nursery Parnassus, a choice collection of pretty songs and verses, 1866, ISBN 0-548-69412-5. Scottish Songs, 1869, ISBN 1-4371-0663-3. Fairy Tales, Legends and AMP Romances illustrating Shakespeare in AMP. Other early English writers, 1875, ISBN 0-7661-49811. The Boy Knight, or Kindness Rewarded, James B. Knapp, 1877. Ancient Popular Poetry V1, from Authentic Manuscripts and Old Printed Copies, by Joseph Ritson and Edmund Goldsmid, 1884, ISBN 1-10401763-6, Ancient English Metrical Romances, Ian Amp G. Goldsmid, 1884. Northern Garlands, A Collection of Songs, 1887, a dissertation on romance and minstrelsy, to which is appended the Ancient Metrical Romance of Yen and Gowan, 1891, ISBN 0-548-78222-9. Joseph Ritson, A Critical Biography, by Henry A. Bird, Illinois, 1916, ISBN 0-554-58449-2. Joseph Ritson, Scholar at Arms.